This is a rusty nail, and this is a rusty fuzz from TC Electronic. And we're looking at a $49 pedal here. So clearly there are some engineering compromises that TC Electronic had to do. Definitely not the chassis. This is a bent steel chassis, very sturdy. The pots give you a nice reassuring feel. You can pop these off without much trouble when you need to do some service, because you're going to have to remove the nuts from the pots in order to service the board if you ever need to do that. And then the foot switch itself is kind of a funky deal. If you look inside, there's actually a spring here, and the pots and the foot switch have long posts, and the board lays low, and all of the components are facing upwards. Typically when you open up a pedal, the way that the board is in, all the components are sticking up this way. The way these are constructed is that the board is down here, secured by posts from the pots and the foot switch, and all of the components are kind of facing upwards. On the board itself, I got a couple pictures I can show you. The way that they saved money is that clearly the board itself is a printed circuit board that has surface mounted components, which are smaller versions of resistors, capacitors, and other components. But for the key transistor in the circuit, they used a standard component as well as some of the capacitors. So it's kind of like a hybrid between the two. And if you ever wanted to swap out the transistor, you can actually just do that with a soldering iron. So it's kind of a blend of kind of lower cost components and techniques and traditional components as well. So despite having kind of an aggressive, hard-edged name like Rusty Fuzz, this is a very well-mannered fuzz pedal. You're not entering into that crazy, out-of-control, brash territory that a lot of the newer fuzz pedals can give you. It's really well-rounded and kind of usable in a lot of instances. I like to think of it as a fuzz pedal that's great for people that don't necessarily love fuzz. Now, there's three controls on the pedal itself. You have a fuzz, a tone, and a volume control. So the fuzz kind of controls the amount of the effect. The volume has loads and loads of gain on tap, which is great. Goes way beyond unity, so you can kind of use it as a boost to push a preamp or another pedal. And then a very useful tone control that rolls off a lot of the brash high end over on the low side, and on the high side gives a really bright, aggressive sound. So much so that when you raise the tone control past, say, 2 o'clock, you'll actually have to roll the volume back to keep the signal about at the same level. So I'm just going to show a couple spectrograms here. This is a clean sound and this is a fuzz sound, and you can see a big difference in the high harmonics. It's a very harmonically rich sound when you use a fuzz. It's also very reactive to the guitar's tone controls as well as the guitar's volume. Rolling back the volume on the guitar can lead you anywhere from total breaking up, gated mayhem to a more traditional overdrive type sound.
So we're going to go through a number of different sounds with different settings on both the guitar and the pedal to give you a feeling for the range of the sounds that it can provide you. This first sound is with a dual humbucker guitar on the bridge pickup with the fuzz way down, all the way down to the bottom of the fuzz control. With the tone controls around 10 o'clock, so that's rolled back a little bit, and the volume up to about 2 o'clock. You have to push the volume a little bit when you have the other controls so low. The guitar volume is down to 6, but the tone is all the way up because the fuzz pedal is set a little bit dark, so I want all of the high end to come back from the guitar. Now what I've done is leaving the fuzz very low, but turning the tone control all the way up to 3 o'clock, making it very bright. I'm also keeping the volume and tone controls of the guitar at 6 volume, 10 tone. So it's high on the tone control of both the guitar and the pedal, and you'll see it's very bright sound. So for this one, I'm going from a low to high volume on the guitar with the tone control all the way up. And you'll hear it go from a little bit of an overdrivey sound to kind of that sputtering, loud, fuzzy sound that we were talking about. So for this one, I've made 2 changes. I basically cranked up the tone on the fuzz and turned the tone control of the guitar all the way down to 0. So for the last part, I'm going to play the same kind of riff into a driven amp, kind of a plexi-ish style, and then a clean one, which is a Fender clean, just so you can get a feeling for the same fuzz settings and the same guitar into different amps, one driven, one clean. And as an added bonus, we'll take a listen to the guitar with the volume all the way up, the fuzz all the way up, and the amp driven all together, and how the sound just completely falls apart. So what's the conclusion on this thing? Well, you can't really go wrong for $49. You can pay maybe twice that and get a step up in terms of features and flexibility. But for what you're getting, it's a really usable, well-mannered kind of fuzz pedal, particularly for someone just starting off and trying to get their feet wet with fuzzes. It's easy to use, there's always a sound to be had and to be dialed in. That's all for now. Take care of each other and happy guitaring.